this will answer some of your questions too. So today we're going to talk about, let me just close so I'm not staring at myself. I hate seeing myself. So today we're going to talk about the challenges and opportunities of launching and operating the renovation program at the brokerage level. We're going to talk about strategies to limit your liability, kind of what we were talking about just a second ago. There she is. We're going to talk about strategies to limit your liability, the people involved and their roles in the deployment and management of the program. We're going to talk about creating your own fund at a brokerage level and how to help agents access the fund, in addition to ways you can utilize the program to attract and retain agents. But first, I had a couple questions today that I thought I'd share with the group and answer them here. So, Keisha asked these questions, so most of us know Keisha. Her first question was, have you had any lawsuits or complaints on you from the renovation projects? If so, why and what happened? I've not had any complaints from the public or clients or customers. I've had lots of complaints to the real estate commission from agents who felt that I was providing inducements to gain business. Thankfully, the regional association and both real estate commissions for the states that I'm licensed in were already aware of what I was doing. So when I responded, they dropped the complaint. But I'll walk through kind of what they were trying to complain about when they made those complaints here in a second. What are the questions from the broker's eyes? We'll walk through that here next. Hopefully that'll answer some of your questions, but if you do have anything specific, just let me know. And then what state's commission rule may be threatened, realizing all states are different. So let's first start with NAR's Code of Ethics, which is if you are a realtor, if you've signed up with the National Association of Realtors, you are bound by the Code of Ethics, which I don't know if we're all realtors or not, but if not, then it's your state. But at least at the high level, we're all bound by the NAR Code of Ethics. So the standards of practice does actually address what is most commonly used as a complaint by other agents in your market who complain to the real estate board. And that is the subject of inducements. You're trying to induce a listing or a purchase from the public by offering some kind of prize or premium or discount or whatever. So the thing that's really important is to look at here is that it very clearly states that it's not allowed unless you're taking care to be candid about any advertising, whether you're doing it publicly or privately, that you're representing to any interested party everything you're offering up front. So they have to know all the terms and conditions. It has to be clear. There can't be any gotchas. It's got to be all on the up and up. So from the NAR Code of Ethics standpoint, there's nothing saying you can't offer some kind of discount or inducement or prize or gift card or whatever, so long as it's clear to everyone how they're going to go about getting that, and that there aren't any extra gotchas in there. The rest of it's left up to your state real estate commissions. So I'm licensed in 2 states, Missouri and Kansas. So in Missouri, the rules and regs state that you can offer prizes, money, gifts, or other valuable consideration as an inducement, so long as the award of that inducement is not contingent on the customer utilizing your services to then list, lease, or sell with you. So I address this in both states, regardless. I address this by making sure they understand that they don't have to use me to list the property. I can 100% invoice to closing regardless of who they choose to use. So if they decide to use me, great, it makes it a lot easier, but they don't have to. Obviously that's my goal, but they don't have to. And that's the thing that you have to be very clear about, at least in Missouri. Now, Kansas has no such limitations. So I follow the NAR Code of Ethics, standards of practice on that. And so you'll have to research your state regulations to see what your options are. And if you're a realtor, just know that the Code of Ethics applies to you, even if your state doesn't have a rule on it. Did that answer your question, at least where the states and NAR was concerned, Keisha?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Perfect. So just limiting liability at the brokerage level. I mean, this is a really great program. It solves a lot of problems. It brings a lot of attention to your brokerage. It brings a lot of attention to you and your agents who are performing these services, who are offering their vision and their design expertise. So you're bringing kind of a lot of attention to yourself doing something like this. There aren't a lot of people who are doing this. And those that aren't really talking about it a whole lot or are scared to share. Like I said, and I think you mentioned it when we were at Teach at the Beach in September, I had mentioned that I had 19 complaints to the real estate commission because no one in my market is doing anything like this, like not even close. And so there was a lot of complaining that was going on. And there's, of course, my brokerage is separate now. So I have my own. I wouldn't have been able to do this at the previous brokerage that I was with. And I know most of you don't know my background, but I was with Keller Williams, a local brokerage franchise here with Keller Williams. And that operating principle was very conservative and really just kind of wanted agents to focus on what I call vanilla real estate. So as I'm doing this and opening these things up and being more creative, you do have to think about you're attracting a lot of attention. People are paying attention. There's, for whatever reason in our industry, a lot of jealousy with people who are doing new and different things. So regardless of whether or not you're following the rules, you're going to have people complain and you're potentially going to open yourself up for lawsuits. And I've never been sued. I've never even come close to that. So that I think is a positive. But at the same time, there are some things you can do to sort of limit your liability at the brokerage level, primarily creating a separate LLC for the renovation program within your brokerage. So I'm in the process. I don't know, I lost all my notes here. I don't know how I did that, but I created a completely separate LLC within the brokerage to handle just the renovation program. And I did that for a couple of reasons. One of which is I have the ability to utilize that LLC for the renovation program, but I also use it as a high-level referral network. So I actually have, or I will have a commercial lender. I will have a cleaning service. I have a legal service set up within there, a couple of other home inspectors and things like that. And they pay to participate in that referral network associated with the renovation program. That's where my construction company that I partner with is pays to be part of that LLC and to receive those referrals. And then I also get a portion of their revenue on top of it. So having that LLC off to the side allows me to kind of encapsulate all of the extra services that I'm doing and offering to my agents to utilize as part of their marketing package to their customers. So the nice thing about doing that is too, that you can offer or obtain general liability insurance separate from your brokerage, separate from you personally, separate from your real estate sales business. It's really focused specifically on your renovation program, if that's what you start with. But any kind of sort of referral network you create to provide services to customers is contained within that LLC. So one thing that I did was here locally, I partnered with at the brokerage level a larger construction firm. It's called Mac Residential. And I partnered with them because they can provide a lot more coverage. Their business practices are more legitimate. They're more focused on their processes. So they have great processes in place. And they're able to actually get better pricing for the products that my clients need as part of their renovations. And they can scale the program with me. So right now, we're doing 4 to 8 at a time, but we could really scale this up quite a bit. And that business is happening in that separate LLC, which is super helpful. And I also kind of look at this program as a loss leader. And I say that in the sense that it's driving a lot of traffic. It's driving a lot of interest. We're getting a lot of attention. There's press and media and things associated with it that are really, really good. And on most renovations, we make a profit. not all of them. So I kind of look at it like from a brokerage standpoint, it's a service that we offer to help our agents engage the community, offer a service that isn't really being provided in our area. It also helps them kind of get out in front and really stretch their legs. And it's not all about sales. You know, there's some design involved, there's some vision involved. Some folks, I attract very technical and process oriented people typically. So those folks do really well with this type of program because it's very process driven. It's very, you know, project management driven. And there's then on top of it, there's sort of this ability for them to stretch their legs and be a little bit more creative as well. Not every project makes money. They don't. Sometimes the ahas get you, you know, but for the most part, we do make a profit on that. And then in addition, like I said before, having the separate LLC off to the side with these other businesses as part of that network, any business we funnel to them, we do see, you know, a rev share on that. So that's been very helpful. Any questions, other questions on that, maybe that I didn't touch on around liability that you might be concerned about? I know, Teresa, you usually have great questions around this stuff.
I'm sitting here thinking and taking in everything that you're saying. So I know I'm going to have questions. Just give me a moment. I will have questions.
You're totally fine.
I have a question.
Yes.
How many construction companies did you interview before you decided on the one you're working with now?
Yeah, so initially they approached me, Mac Residential approached me directly as they saw that I was doing this and kind of approached me with an offer essentially. They said, here's what we can do for you, which was great. I have kind of a tiered process. So if I'm working on a much larger or more really important project, then I'll use Mac Residential. Then I have a couple of other smaller players that I utilize for smaller projects or things that aren't as intense. And I did obviously interview them. I talked to them about what kind of liability insurance they carry, what their process looks like, how we would engage them directly on any particular project, what their expectations of us are, what our expectations of them are. And I'll kind of talk about how we manage our projects here in a second with people and kind of the touch points and things like that. But yeah, I mean, we do sit down. I want to see some of the work that they've done. I want to know a little bit about their business and where they're headed. Usually they want to, you know what our goals are and what we're trying to accomplish as well. So it's more, for me, the initial may not be a great business practice, but for me, the initial piece is, do we click? Do we seem to have similar goals? Do we seem to have a similar method or way of communicating? Can we, you know, communicate difficult issues and be respectful and professional and get through it? Are we looking at solutions or are we constantly looking at problems? So I kind of focus a little bit more on the, you know, professional communication aspect of it at first. And then we dig into, you know, what is their process? How do they want us to engage with them? What kind of information do we need? How do we want to structure our estimates? Do they want to be involved in the estimating up front? Do they have a specific process they want us to follow? That kind of thing. And obviously with larger construction firms, they're definitely more process oriented and they have things really buttoned up, which is really, really helpful when you're trying to scale and when you're trying not to make a mistake. But two, sometimes it can be really daunting because they have, you know, very specific way they want to do business and you're trying to shove your process, which is very creative and, you know, visionary and let's see what happens if we do this kind of thing. And you're trying to put it into this more corporate process driven structure. Can be a little frustrating at times. And I think that's part of the reason when we talk about people, it's one of the reasons why I hired a project manager to help us with that, who has experience managing construction projects and can be that go-between. And that has been very, very helpful. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Awesome. Anyone else have any questions on this one? Okay. Cool. So I kind of have a group of people, and I've sort of put them in 3 buckets that, we work with on every project. And the folks that should be involved are obviously you or whoever the broker is. Like I said, I've hired a project manager. The agent who brought the business into the brokerage is a very important key person in the renovation process, as well as what comes after, obviously. But I also have, as part of our sort of referral LLC network thing, a lawyer that we consult with regularly if we have challenges or questions, or we come across something we've never come across before. How do we navigate and negotiate that from a legal perspective? And then we also have our GC, so our lead sort of, general contractor person who's very engaged with us and is sort of our contact on the day-to-day on all the projects. And then obviously we have the owners. So when we talk about what they're doing, so when we're looking at how a project comes into our process, at the end of the day, the broker who is the responsible party, the person holding the licenses is the responsible party. And at the end of the day, they need to be the final approval. Is this a right risk for the brokerage to take? Does this seem like a good project? Does it seem like we can make an impact? Does it seem like we, can have an opportunity to create value in this neighborhood? Is there other opportunities in this neighborhood that we can, use this as a stepping stone and build upon? And so we have, the broker is that person. They're the rubber stamp, essentially. And if the broker doesn't approve it, it doesn't happen. Then we have our project manager who does day-to-day management. So they're responsible for managing the budget, communicating progress, resolving issues, whether it's on the job or with scheduling or with ahas that came up around, we opened a floor or opened a wall and suddenly we stumbled across something and it's going to take a hit to our budget. They hold daily stand-ups. And if you're not from a software background, that might sound weird, but every morning, the project manager and the agent and the GC, agent is optional, but at least the project manager and the GC meet every day to talk about what happened yesterday, what's on the docket for today, and any impediments they may be having to getting things done according to the overall schedule. And then on top of that, they meet weekly. If the agent's not involved on the day-to-day stand-up, they're absolutely involved in the weekly meeting with the broker, me, the project manager, and occasionally we'll bring the GC in if we have a particularly large issue that we need to talk about. And then the agent is the one who handles all the communication with the client. So they manage expectations, they're providing status updates, they're getting all of that information to the client and making sure the client's happy. It's hard when the client is living in their home. That has been by far the biggest struggle. It's been very difficult to do the renovation when they're living and working in their homes. So the agent becomes, and the project manager sometimes will have direct communication with the client as well, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, everybody's happy, we're addressing issues before they become big problems, those kinds of things. On the external team, the lawyer, like I said, we bring them in to review any final agreements. If, the contractor has added any provisions to an agreement, if the owner has asked us to strike a paragraph from an agreement or wants additional protections for something we didn't think about, any changes, we have the lawyer that's part of our network review all of that. And then if we come across something, we're like, we're not really sure where this falls, if we're going to run into any issues on this one. So we'll go back to the lawyer and just make sure we're all on the up and up. And then, like I said, the GC or the crew leader, they're actually, they're there every day managing that, managing their crew and making sure that we're pulling all the right permits, that, all the work is on track, and they're the direct communication with the project manager. And then the client receives weekly updates from the agent. So we actually, if they're not living in the house or there regularly, we do have some projects for out-of-state folks who, like, parents have passed away and they want to get the most out of the property. So they don't live here, they're not coming here. We send them weekly photos just to kind of give them an update on what's going on. We also send them kind of weekly budget updates if we're on track, off track, or if we think we're going to run into something or we have ran into something that we need to extend the budget for. And we go through an approval process with them for that, kind of like what we talked about yesterday with change orders. So we'll do the same thing with a client. If we come across something where it's like, oh shoot, we opened up the wall and now we found mold and we have to have mold mitigation out here and we've got to tent the house. I mean, all kinds of things. We'll actually sit down with them before we do any of that and make sure they're okay with the changes being made. And then we talk about scheduling and the progress on the project. So that's kind of like how we deploy and manage it at a high level. Obviously, depending on how many projects you have going at any one time, I was doing the project management role and the broker role and the agent role in the beginning. And it helped just to have even a part-time project manager come in and just help with like just keeping all the documentation together and just making sure that the budgets were lining up and that we weren't being overcharged for things and that we had, receipts for all the material invoices and that kind of stuff. That was super helpful in the beginning. Now I have a dedicated project manager that's what they do. That's the only thing that they work on, is just managing those projects, making sure we're on the right track. Any questions? No. Okay. So finding good contractors, obviously is really, really hard, but finding the right project to work on is equally difficult. So when my agents are out there talking to people about the program and we find someone who's interested, we actually have them go through a process where they fill out this project request and intake sheet, and I'll open it up here in a second. But our process is they have to actually fill the entire thing out. And they usually do that after their walkthrough when they come back to the office and sit down and really kind of put pen to paper on what they want to do and how they want to do it. And then they have to submit this and their cheat sheet. So that spreadsheet that we were looking at the other day on Friday that walks through all the different costs associated with things, they actually have to submit that as well. And that goes to the project manager. So he actually gets both of those things and he'll look at it and kind of look at the comps that they came up with. And I'll open that here for you really quick. So he'll actually sit down and look at, what did they put in here for number of beds and baths? Does it have an HOA? Meaning, are we going to have to deal with an HOA to make sure any exterior changes or interior, if it's, one of those HOAs that requires any kind of footprint change or any kind of, structural changes or anything like that, then he needs to know that up front. Any information on the roof, the HVAC, the AC condenser, but this is probably the big part of it. So we have them actually go through and pull the CMAs, and they have to actually put in this sheet what the current value is based on their walkthrough and the CMA that they've pulled and their renovated value. And I need comps. We want to see comps. If they went live right now, what would it look like? If they, waited until after renovation, what would it look like? And then any kind of explanation they have around it. They have to tell us a little bit about the owner, how long they've owned it, why they're wanting to sell, why they need our services from the renovation fund perspective in order to do it. How much do they owe on their home? Who's their mortgage company? Are they currently aware of any liens? And do they need to net a specific number in order to make it work? And then they kind of do a mini estimate for me. So they'll actually put in here from their cheat sheet what that total number was at the top right, plus they'll add a little bit of a contingency. Keep in mind, we build one into the cheat sheet, but I have them add an additional 10% just to be safe. And then we've got the brokerage management fee, which is how I pay the project manager. So our total estimated renovation cost goes in here, and that's part of what we review just as an intake perspective. They have to put on here what they want to do to the property, if they're going to be needing to move any walls, any structural defects that need to be corrected. We have a lot of foundation challenges here in the Midwest, lots of water in basements, lots of really old stone foundations, things like that. So if there's anything like that, even if it just needs tuck point and seal, we need to know that up front. That's, one of those extra expenses that you kind of, holy crap, come across later. Any kind of like plumbing that they can see needs to happen. For instance, if the HVAC looks like it's on its last leg, or if the water heater looks like it's about to die, it's rusted out, something like it's sitting on the floor, directly on the floor, it doesn't have an expansion tank, some of those things that people really look for right now. Any appliances that are going to need to be replaced. So this kind of gives them the opportunity to tell the project manager and myself what are they thinking for this? You know, what do they kind of want to see happen with this? And then at the very bottom, they have to put in a Google Drive link or Dropbox or whatever they want to use, iCloud, I don't really care. Some kind of link to a photo album from their walkthrough. I want to see photos of what the place currently looks like. We have had, before we did that, we had challenges where a couple of agents brought in my favorite red flag, which is hoarders. And I know, Debbie, you love hoarders, but it's so hard for me. So hard. So, you know, they didn't show us any pictures and we get there. Do what?
I can't help myself. I'm addicted. They love me. I love them. I don't know.
It's so sweet. You know, I'll refer all of them to you.
Okay.
But so I want to see what they're seeing. They're kind of instructed to take pictures of the furnace, take pictures of the AC condenser, take pictures of the foundation walls. You know, from the far back of the backyard, I want to see as much as you can of the roof. I want to see, you know, whatever you're thinking of doing for a renovation, I want to see what it looks like now. And again, this kind of leads back to what I said before, where these pictures are often what you're using for your transformation anyway. So it's really kind of important that we have those up front. But in order for the project manager to kind of look through it and kind of make a recommendation, he really needs to see something. So rather than inconvenience the client by having them go out, we'll either have them take video or we'll have them take photos of their walkthrough. And then the project manager will review all of that documentation. They may schedule time with the agent to kind of walk through, you know, if they have any questions, if they're like, okay, your as-is value says this house is worth $30,000 and you somehow think it's going to magically be worth $215,000 at the end of this, and we're only talking about $20,000. What's happening here? Which we have had happen before. And he can kind of sit down and educate them on, you know, when you're looking at a project like this, the comps that you should be looking at need to be same floor plan, you know, so he kind of helps with some of that too. So then after he has that conversation with them, he'll bring the recommendation and the cheat sheet and this intake sheet to our weekly meeting. We'll sit down and talk about any potential new projects that are coming in. We'll review. If I have questions, I'll reach out to the agent. But then if I've got, like, you know, I don't think this is a $20,000 project. This is more like a $50,000 project, which is fine, but we need to figure out where you went wrong on this and make sure our cheat sheet is up to snuff and we've got everything accounted for that needs to be accounted for in there. So I'll send that back to them and the project manager and the agent. Then they'll review and talk to the seller. If any changes need to be made, or if the seller's like, that's just way more than I really wanted to deal with, so let's just put it on them, whatever it might look like. Or I'll approve it, or I have rejected a couple. Either the projects were too big or there just wasn't enough margin. So they didn't, you know, they owed so much on their home that even a renovation wasn't going to solve the problem, wasn't going to be able to add value. And at the end of the day, I want to make sure what we are doing is creating value and is creating a positive situation for a seller on the backside. You know, through the slog of going through a renovation, it's already going to be hard on the relationship. I want to make sure at the very end, we have a happy client. And a lot of times, if we're going to endeavor into a really large project and in the end, it's really not going to benefit them, then I don't really want to take that on. And we explain that to them and we talk to them about other alternatives, other opportunities that they might have for getting that assistance. Teresa, has there ever been a time where you were on the fence about a property an agent submitted and you've gone out to see for yourself, or do you just decline it because the agent didn't do their work? I love you. I've gone out, especially when I've got new agents doing it for the first couple times. I usually do want to go out and see it. I want them to do the work first. I want to see what they come back with. It's a training thing for me too. I'm a teach them to fish kind of thing. I want them to at least make an attempt. Then I want to go out with them, walk through the concerns that I have, what I would have maybe put on there differently, what maybe I see that they don't, any ahas. You know, it's an opportunity to train them on how to do it the right way. So I definitely do for the first 2 to 3 an agent is doing. Beyond that, if they're not submitting all of the information to me, or if they're totally under renovating or underestimating even what a renovation will be, I'll connect them to the project manager and they could duke it out. Because he knows when they're, you're not going to replace a water heater for $100. Like, I can't even get one to fall off the back of a truck for $100. You know what I mean? Like, so he'll have to duke some of that out with them too. And I think that at the end of the day, I want them to really learn how to do this, whether or not they stay with me forever, they go somewhere else, whatever it is. This is a really great opportunity. It's more about what we're doing for the public than it is about, what the brokerage is doing, essentially. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
All right, awesome. So if and when the project's approved, so if I feel good about it, we're good to go. The project manager will work with the GC to firm up the numbers, revise the budget, make sure we're all on the same page, make sure that we can get the materials in the scope of time frame we really want. And then they'll actually set a schedule with the GC, and then the agent is working with the owner on what that schedule is going to look like. And they're getting all the agreements signed, the listing agreement, schedule approved, budget approved, all those kinds of things. They're working directly with the owner to do that. Any questions on our process? No? Okay. So a really great opportunity. I don't know what happened on my notes. They all just kind of got weird. A really great opportunity at the brokerage level, which, you do kind of have some of these, and we talked a little bit about these yesterday from the agent's perspective, but at the brokerage level, really being able to have that conversation with a strategic partner, with a larger construction firm, or even a local mom and pop shop that can handle the potential workload that you're going to have. The other really great thing about a strategic partnership in this way, most of the time they're willing to do delayed payment. So they'll actually directly invoice to closing in a lot of cases. And that's really helpful for everyone to have that really good relationship. So I kind of looked for strategic opportunities or partnerships with mid-sized to larger construction firms, but I kind of try to focus on the mid-sized ones. While I'm a big proponent of having a really solid process, I don't necessarily want to get bogged down in paperwork and have to wait 6 months to get a project done. Same thing with passive or active investors. You can add those to your referral, your LLC that you're creating off to the side. You're having them just investing in that particular LLC. And they can be actively investing and also actively partnering with you. They could also be very passive and just kind of helping feed some funding, and they get dividends on the quarter or the month, however you set that up. But you can sort of continue to feed back to them profit on the backside. I've not done this number 3 agent participation fee. We've talked about it. We're not big enough yet as a brokerage to really, I think, warrant doing this at this point. And we may do it later, but this is essentially a participation fee where you're going to have agents that have come from all different backgrounds, that have all kinds of different interests. Some may not want to participate in any kind of renovation program. Maybe they just are terrified of the design aspect of it. Maybe they just don't want to be engaged with a client for that length of time or that intense of a set, period, whatever it is. But if you have a set of agents that just want to do the renovation program, or that want to at least have access to it, then potentially they would participate with a fee where they, like, 6% of all their commissions, not just renovation, but all their commissions are diverted to help fund the program. And you can do any combination of these as well. A loan from your brokerage to your LLC with interest. My accountant got me all hooked up on that one. If I loan the LLC that I'm in the process of creating, whatever, $50,000 this quarter or something like that, the LLC is going to pay the brokerage back with interest. But it's a way to get funding into that particular program, especially if the brokerage is doing really well. Then you've got personal loans. So you could personally provide funding to the LLC off to the side that's doing all of these things. And then you're getting paid back with interest or not, however you wanted to work that. I would definitely set it up with interest, but then that way you can fund that personally too. When we're talking about multiple LLCs, it's really important that we're keeping all the books separate. And that also means that we're being on the up and up and having, notes and loan agreements and things like that when we're loaning another one of our LLCs money for anything really. So this is one of those ways that you can help fund something, but still not really have to dig into other means or other methods of funding. Those partner participants that are part of your, I keep calling it the referral. So it's Royal Fox Referral Network is what it is for us. So I just keep calling it referral. But so our network essentially has a participation fee, an enrollment fee is what we call it, when a partner wants to join the service and they're vetted and we've gone through the process and we know that they're a legitimate company and we really do want to work with them. Then they pay an enrollment fee that goes into the fund. And then in addition to that, the revenue share that we do on any sales that we generate to them, so any referrals that we give to them that generate sales, then we have a revenue-based fee from those partner participants as well. And that helps fund the renovation program too. And then, the usual business loan or line of credit from a traditional banking institution. I've found, as I've talked to a couple of other folks who are doing this at a brokerage level, that credit unions or local banks are more likely to want to participate in something like this versus, a US bank or a Bank of America or Wells Fargo even. So any questions about that? Any ahas or surprises?
I have a question.
Yes.
So when you first started, like before you did the 4 or 5, how much did you have, if you don't mind telling us, to start?
Yeah. So the first project that I bid off, that I offered to the public, and I kind of keep these things separate. So I was doing this type of stuff for friends and family before, but it was not like this. You don't have to have the same level of agreements. You don't have to have a lot of that. So I was doing it before, but I would just do a 1 to 2% increase in my commission to cover it. Where this is a little bit more institutional, we personally loaned the brokerage $50K, and then we separated it off into this other LLC. But I personally started it with about $50,000 of my own money. The first project we took on was that Eastern Court project, the one where I learned so very much. And that one initially started out at 15. And because of having to fire one of the contractors who had completely underbid the project and whatever, that ended up eating half of our investment. And then the second one that we did, Park Avenue, was one of those. That one ended up eating the other 25. However, the profit from that, keeping in mind that I still have a brokerage split, I still do a split with myself. Somebody, you've got to fund it. So I still do a brokerage split as well. So some of that money came back into the brokerage as our slush fund essentially. But most of it I got paid back over time, me personally. So now the brokerage and our participants and things like that are all funding it now. And I don't have to have any money transfer over to those endeavors. That answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this has been really, 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 really good for attracting agents. I think a lot of times they get into it and they see the vision part of it and they're not seeing the process side of it. So now that we've got quite a few agents going through this process, this is part of our conversation before I ever sign any kind of license transfer. We actually walk through it so they know exactly what they're getting into and they know how it functions and works from an agent's perspective within the brokerage. But one thing that I found, and I've gotten, I have a mastermind group here locally with several boutique brokerages, little small companies like me And we all get together and talk about things that we're experiencing, challenges that we're finding, who has the best E&O insurance, what technology we're utilizing, those kinds of things. And one thing that I've really, really discovered, which you'd think would be pretty, maybe a simple thing, is that the bigger brands are scared to do things that are not traditional real estate. We're much scrappier. And agents want a competitive advantage. They want to be aligned with a brokerage that has creativity, that is doing something outside the box, that's willing to push the envelope in a legal way, but still push the envelope and do things that other people are just too afraid to do. That's more than anything, just the fact that we're doing it, even if they don't end up participating in it, just the fact that they're aligning themselves with a brokerage that does do something that's a little bit different than your average everyday vanilla real estate transaction has helped us attract quite a few more agents. I kind of look at it like I'm more willing to take on newer agents now than I was in the beginning as a small brokerage, because I can train them into this program, and they're also scrappy, right? Newer agents tend to be a little bit more excited, and they're, willing to try new things, and they're just trying to get, as much business as possible. This program has been an excellent way to help agents attract more business, even if they're not utilizing it themselves. We've got inter-agent or inter-brokerage referrals happening because there are some agents who are terrified of having to do anything close to design, or don't want to get involved with the client, that length. They're referring it to other agents in the office that are interested in doing renovation projects. And then obviously just highlighting agents and their stats with the program. So how many days on market, how many offers, how quickly the property went. Terms is a big one. So no inspections, no appraisal, no whatever it is. $30,000 over list price, those kinds of things, being able to highlight that specific to the agent. So we do that kind of on a quarterly basis. That talks about, this particular agent has done, 6 renovation projects this quarter, has increased, their sellers' profitability on the sale of their property by 85% or whatever that is. That helps them, obviously gives them a way to touch their database and get out in front of people and attract more business. Then honestly, the transformations is the biggest thing. People want to see the crap to the polished diamond. And that's honestly been a really great way to get more agents into the brokerage. It's also been a really great way to help agents retain more business, and that keeps them happy and with you. And then we haven't started doing this yet, but if we do move to the agent participation fee, where we're diverting 6% for those agents who want to participate in the program, we're also going to reward them with profit share. So every quarter, when we sit down and go through the books for that quarter, then we'll do a little bit of profit share with them too. And then anytime agents bring in new partners to the referral LLC, we reduce their split by 2.5%. So they get to keep more of their money the more they help us grow. And then, like I said, we built a network of boutique brokerages here locally that I'm expanding and trying to connect with other brokerages across the nation and building that network. And then they're having conversations with their agents who are referring business to an agent in my market. That agent is unhappy, looking for something different. They're connecting them with me. So it kind of all sort of keeps everybody moving and excited about it and happy. I haven't had any agents that are participating in this currently. None of them have left. And they're all very happy, very engaged, very interested in helping the brokerage grow, which I think is fantastic. Any questions about attraction and retention?
How many agents do you have?
We're at 14 now, not counting me and our support staff, some of which are licensed. We're at 14.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if you all know, but I opened my brokerage in January of this year. So we've almost hit our 1-year mark, and I had only planned to grow to 10 agents, and we're at 14 actively producing agents. And then I think I've got four staff people who are licensed who do referral business primarily. And then we've got a couple of agents who are licensed but not very active. So, but I say we have 14.
Jana,
Yes.
from the agent growth that you've had this year, how much would you, or what percentage would you say is from other agents bringing someone over in a
Half.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been, we may have talked about this before, Teresa. I'm really not a recruiter, which my husband gives me a lot of crap about. That's just not, it feels cold and gross to me. I'm much more of an attraction-based recruiter where I want to put out there what we're doing, and people who are interested will ask our agents, and those folks are going to tout all the great things that come with being a part of our brokerage, even though we're small. And that's honestly, that's the biggest part, the biggest challenge we have, especially during COVID, when we have an office, but nobody comes to it, which I'm totally okay with right now, for sure. But that's a lot of the complaint that we get is that, well, you're a smaller brokerage. Well, yes, but look at all the awesome things that we're doing that you'll never find at the larger brokerages that you're looking at. And that in and of itself has been a huge opportunity. And the agents that are out there talking about it and getting a lot of recognition for what they're doing and complaints for what they're doing has helped bring in more folks. So about half of our growth is related to other agents that are out there touting what we're doing.
Okay, and I have another follow-up question to that.
Yes.
What would you say the experience level would be with the growth that you have? Is it newer agents, more seasoned agents, or a mixture?
Yeah, so we've got mostly, up until about 2 months ago, I wouldn't bring on anybody that had less than 4 deals in the last 2 years. That's been my only requirements. They had to have had 4 deals in the last 2 years to be able to move over to our brokerage. And that's primarily because I don't have a huge training staff and I can't divert resources to train brand new agents more than we already do, train agents. So most of our agents are seasoned. They have at least 4 transactions under their belt. I think I hired one this year who had just hit her 4th in the last 2 years, and she's tripled her business just this year. And I think she actually started with us in August, and she's tripled her business in 1 year just since August. So, we have an impact, and they see that, and that's definitely helped the conversation for sure. We have 2 brand new agents right now, and I won't bring on any more for like 6 months. Unless I decide to hire a trainer, which I'm not ready to do yet. I'm too much of a control freak. I want to make sure they're doing things right. Any other questions? Cool. Well, I wanted to highlight, Debbie, I know you do some of this too. I'm not as familiar with the work that you do as part of your organization currently, but I do want to highlight a few folks who I've had the pleasure of working with who are in completely different markets from me. They're part of our mastermind group. 2 of them are in the earlier stages, and they've been part of our sessions this weekend. Neither one of them are here today. They both had previous engagements, but Alejandra was with us yesterday. She's from the Phoenix market. She's been doing some light renovations for her clients. Then Stacy Mucka is another one, and these links here actually go out to their Facebook pages, so you'll be able to connect with them too and see what they're doing. But Stacy's in the Salt Lake market. She's been doing quite a bit of renovation work and having some really great success. So we're proud to have her as part of the network. And then Sierra Netherton is actually who planted this seed for me in the beginning. So about 2 years ago, I found her on Facebook. She is an incredible interior designer, even though that's not really her background. And I started following what she was doing, and she started this in the Clarksville, which is Middle Tennessee. She started doing this, and her business she's got a team of like 30 people now. And she's been licensed for 3 years. And she's doing over 70 million a year, just almost primarily through the renovation program. So we tag team quite a bit and exchange ideas and whatnot. She's also part of the mastermind group. And then I wanted to highlight 2 actual real estate brokerages that are doing this. One is Compass. We don't have Compass here. I don't know if you have them in your market, but they offer a concierge program, and they, like we have transitioned to, include photography and drone services and staging, as well as renovations and things like that as part of their concierge service. So that's some of the modeling that we've done as part of our sort of a separate LLC, is kind of in that vein. And then another company who this is the only thing that they do is Renovation projects, is called Renovation Realty. And they're actually in the San Diego and Los Angeles area. And they've done some pretty stunning projects as well. And so they're pretty active. And so this actually goes to their website. I didn't have their Facebook page. And you can kind of see their before and afters there too. And then just lastly, don't forget, this is a link, so it'll be in the document that you get tomorrow. If you're not already, I think everybody today is part of the group now. We're just building this up and starting to share more. I think people have been afraid previously that they weren't doing enough renovation projects and weren't sharing, thinking that, 1 out of 8 listings that they're working on is a renovation project and they just painted a kitchen and replaced countertops. It isn't sufficient. Not every project is huge. Anytime you can make a value added impact, we want to see it. We want to talk about it. I very much encourage actually sharing the numbers, especially if you run into anything where you're like, holy crap, I can't believe I overestimated this or underestimated it or whatever it is. We like to just kind of share. And I think that it's really, really helpful. And I said this on day 1, when we collaborate, all ships rise. And I think that that's a great group of people and a great opportunity to continue to grow the network and refer business. If you have someone in another market that needs something done, then we've got somebody there that can help them. So I'll close with any other questions you might have. And if you don't have any right now, that's totally fine. You've all got my email. I'm an open book. I love to talk about this stuff and I love to share, and nothing's off limits. So feel free to ask me, truly ask me anything.
Okay, can you give us your how do you recommend we get started? Like what would be the first thing that we would need to do? Get those contracts reviewed by our attorney?
I would get the contracts reviewed, but frankly, you want to have the problem to begin with. So I would start advertising.
Okay.
I know it sounds silly, but if you don't have anybody who's interested in actually participating, you're going to spend a lot of money on contract review and getting things, set up and structured and whatnot, when it may take you 6 months because you're going to focus on that. I would start talking about the renovation project and program that you're launching, start running some ads, getting some traction, and having somebody who's interested, and then quickly hiring a lawyer or having somebody you already work with. Just do a review. You can grow it. You can expand on everything that you've gotten so far. You can expand on it and make it your own, but at least it gives you something to start with. So I would start with advertising, get a couple people who are interested, go meet them, walk through their home, get a feel for what they're wanting done or what you think needs to be done, then focus on the how.
Okay.
Great question.
I have a question real quick. So like the projects that you did in the case studies, those were beautiful going from the beginning to the end. For a person that doesn't really have an eye for that type of thing, what would you suggest?
So this is a great opportunity to connect with a stager. So if you have a stager in your market that is collaborative and interested in helping, with a vision, I've learned so much from the stager that we have collaborated with on almost all of our listings, just in kind of how she envisions a room, how she looks at functionality. I think a lot of time people focus on the pretty aspect of it, when in reality, a lot of times it's a rearrangement of furniture is all that needs to take place. Or as you know, you walk into a listing and they've got 18 pieces of huge furniture and you just need one, once you remove all 17 other pieces, the house just opens up. So it's really about, I think, collaborating with someone who you feel like you can learn something from, having them walk through homes with you. Even if they take you to homes they're staging, maybe it's not your client, but something that they're staging, and you just kind of follow along to see what they're doing. Eventually, some of that's going to rub off, or you can just hire them to do that for you and just say, I'm going to go visit this client. We know we're probably going to do a renovation on it. I'm curious what your thoughts are going to be. Would you like to come with me? Just help generate some ideas. A lot of times I'll do it for free. If not for free, for a very small fee.
Okay. And then my other question was, for the information that you gave over the last 3 days has been amazing.
Thank you.
For some of us that may feel like once we get started that we need a little bit more guidance or support, are you going to offer like any type of further coaching that we can take advantage of? Of course, for a fee.
Sure.
Just
Yes.
to make sure that we're moving along in this process and not overthinking, everything.
Yeah, which, Tamika says I have the same problem. So, you're in good company.
Brain.
Okay. Yes. So I do offer coaching on the backside of this. If anybody's interested, if you wanted to wait until you had something in the works, or if you want to talk about structure, I'm happy to help there too. I kind of have, it's an 8-week session that we focus on walking through the individual pieces. So if you need step-by-step, I can do that. And I already have a structure for that. Or if you're just looking for, I need someone to bounce some ideas off of, to ask to hold me accountable or whatever, that's a different kind of program. And I offer that too. The 8-week more intensive thing, it is an investment. So if it's not something that you want to buy it off, I totally understand. We have the Facebook group. You can always reach me over email with questions. And then if you did just kind of want to some kind of launch structure, we can do that too. And I can customize it based on your needs as well.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
What's the smallest job you've ever done?
Painting, just painting the interior. So we did we've done a couple that have just been literally painting. And it was so simple. I mean, $2,200, $2,500, doing a full interior paint job or even an exterior paint job. That's been the easiest thing to do. Sometimes I think it can go one of two ways. Either folks walk in and they want to just rip everything out and start over, or your clients are asking you to do that. We hate our carpet. We hate the cabinets. We just want to rip it out and start over. And that may not be what's needed. Oftentimes we come in, we bring our carpet cleaner and stretcher through, our flooring person who does that, to stretch carpet, clean it, get it looking nice again. Painting just walls and trim can often dramatically change the look of a room. Bringing the stager through, which is for us no expense, to walk. She does what's called a walk and talk, where she'll just walk through and say, okay, I want you to move this piece of furniture over here. I want you to take down this piece of artwork. I think if you buy a throw pillow and you put it here, or throw rug and put it here, if you buy, do these kinds of things, then that will make a big difference. And that's free for us. It doesn't cost us anything. I think our smallest project has literally been $2,200, and it was an interior paint. That's all we did.
And what was the proceeds from that?
Oh, okay. I'm going to ballpark it because it's been a while. We don't get the small ones very much anymore. I think in that case, she already had enough equity in her home. She could sell and make a pretty nice penny. For her, it was more of a vanity thing. She was embarrassed by, the fact that she hadn't taken down wallpaper. She hadn't, focused on her home in that way in quite some time. I think on that one, walking in, she had somewhere around 50 to 60K in equity. And on the sales side, I believe we were able to bump that up about another 15K. So the 2,200 spent brought her an extra, $15,000. What else?
So in small cases like that, do you just up the percentage of commission on the listing agreement, or you still go through the full renovation program on a small project like that?
On a small project like that, I just bump up the commission.
Okay.
That's all I do. Yeah. It's not worth it to go through the entire process
Right.
when it's something small like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If I can avoid it and just do the listing, commission side of it and not have to go through the full thing, I prefer to do it that way. We just don't get projects that small anymore. So we've kind of had to come up with some very creative ways to make it work. So
Ever have to replace a roof?
thank goodness, no. And I say that because and I don't know about your state's listing agreements, but part of our state's listing agreements is that they have to carry homeowners insurance in order to list the property, period. And so in that regard, usually they already have it. I haven't had one that hasn't had it yet. And if there's a roof that needs to be replaced, we ask them to make a claim against their insurance, or at least have the adjuster come out and walk the roof to see if there's an opportunity there. If not, we just ask that they disclose. But roofs are one of those things that could be a big can of worms. So unless it's just falling apart and it's a must do, it's causing leaks, there's other issues involved, I won't do it. And I haven't had to yet either.
I've had to do it on the flip, but yeah, it was a nightmare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My favorite phone call, completely different scenario, but my favorite phone call is, yeah, we're going to have to replace the entire roof, all the sheathing underneath it. Some of the rafters need to be replaced, and all the insulation is going to have to be pulled out and replaced as well. I'm just like, good Lord.
Oh,
No,
wow.
thank you. Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, I really appreciate you guys taking time over the last several days. I am going to send, this is the first time I've offered it in this way. So I'm definitely curious to hear your real feedback and, what we could do to make this even more interesting or better, or, some things that maybe we spent way too much time on that you just didn't care about. I really want your feedback. So I'm going to send out, it's just a Google form survey. You don't have to tell me who it is. You don't have to put your information in or anything in order to fill it out, but I would love to have your feedback, and hopefully we can do this again next month.
All right.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you guys. We'll talk to you
Yeah,
soon.
thank you.
Thank you so
Excellent
much.
3 days. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.